Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the Algebra 1 concept of rate of change, specifically how we can find rate of change on tables, and we'll do it in 5 minutes or less. So we have a word problem here showing the linear relationship between the number of points earned, right, so that's right up here on the top, on a test, and the number of questions answered correctly. Questions correct is on the bottom there. So based on this table, what is the rate of change? Well, what are we asking here? The rate of change for the number of points earned per question answered correctly. Okay, so the rate of change, so I'm just going to kind of write it like this. So points per, that per lets me know we're going to do a little division here to find a ratio. Questions, points per questions. Well, if you think about it, the number of questions are what is going to dictate the number of points, right? So this questions right here, this is going to be my independent variable. So that's how we start. We start with an independent variable. The number of points is going to be dependent on that. So that means that's going to be my dependent variable. Well, knowing what I know about dependent and independent variable, I know that my independent variable is usually my x. My dependent variable is usually my y. So what I'm looking for is how does my y change? So my change in y, I'm going to use that delta symbol there for my change in x. That's my rate of change. Does that look familiar? It should, because when I'm looking at change in x over or underneath the change in y, that's my slope. And so really this rate of change is just asking for how does it change from one x to another x as compared to the change in my y. All right, so we know how to do that. Let's use our slope formula here. Change in y, so that's y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 over x sub 1. It doesn't matter which ones we choose. And so, you know what? I am just going to choose the first and the last. That should be pretty easy. Let's make this my y1. It's going to be my x1. Label it here. You can choose any 2 points. It doesn't really matter as long as you label them correctly. So my y2 is 100. My y1 is 30. So that's going to be a nice easy 70 over my x2 is 10. I chose this because my x1 is 0, so that's just 70 over 10. So my rate of change is simply going to be 7. So we start with 30 points. Everyone gets 30 points. And then you just get 7 points for every question correct. Let's look at another example. So we have another table here. This one showing the average height of a child based on its age. So we're looking for the rate of change of a child's height. I'll write that right here. With respect to its age. So with respect to, just kind of lets us know we're going to do another ratio. So height is going to depend on the age, which means my age is going to be my independent variable. And my height is going to depend on what the age is. That changes there. So look at that. It's another way of thinking of slope, change in y over the change in x. And so let's just make this x1 and x sub 2. So we need to match that with y1, y sub 2. You can choose any pair, doesn't really matter. So what is my change in y going to look like? Well, that's my y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So I chose 40 minus 46. Now that's going to give me a negative number, but it doesn't really matter because I've matched up my x sub 2 and my x sub 1. Watch what's going to happen. My x sub 2 is 4. My x sub 1 is 5. So they're both going to end up negative. So a negative and a negative is going to make a positive. That's going to be fine. So watch what I'm going to get. I'm going to get negative 6 over negative 1. Simplify that, right? The two negatives make a positive. So it's going to be 6 inches per year. Right? Or if we wanted to, we can just put 6 in over YR to make a little ratio. And that's how we find the rate of change on tables.